Lola.
Are we on?
Como Estas. Are we streaming, Ben?
I think so. Yeah, we are. Okay. Sorry about that. Still learning how this shit works. But welcome back to the Nightlife. This is our pilot for the for the live, seeing how this works. Streaming live to you. We're hoping to get some people in the chat. Hopefully, if you got that bell turned on and the notifications on YouTube, you got here right away. But we're gonna kick into it. Episode 6 is live. The Knights Round Table, or Knights of the Round Table. Sorry, hitting that happy hour early. But once again, I'm Ben Sugarman, your host. Glad to have you here with us. If you're joining us, with me, I got the Barbarian Paul Friedel. What's going on, Paul?
What's going on, folk?
And spoiler alert for anyone that has not seen this. We are excited to have the winner of episode 6, Trash Knight himself, Evan Ringo. Congratulations, and what's going on, buddy?
What's up? Thank you, Ben.
All right, so let's kick into this episode because I was very pleased with this episode. I feel like a few of these episodes really started to drag a little, but this episode came out of the gates hot, and the chaos rounds. Then the 2-on-2, the singles. I thought the actual action in it was probably one of the better of the episodes we've seen. So I want to get your take on it, Paul. What do you think about the overall for the episode?
You know, I have to agree with you. This was one of the better ones. That we had a lot of action in it, a lot of dynamic fighting in it. I'm looking through my 4 pages of notes I took down on it because I've watched it 3 times now. And the fact that I needed to take that many notes, the other episodes, I had like 1 or 2 pages worth of stuff on it and commentary. Otherwise, like there was a lot of good fighting that I saw in this. Even with the 2 guys that didn't really have a whole lot of experience, they did a lot of work. I was pretty happy with seeing what I saw.
Yeah, definitely agree. And Ringo, I guess your opinion might be a little biased, but
I don't know what you're talking about.
So, especially since you were the one doing the fighting, how did that fighting stack up with some of the fighting you've done just in general within the ACL?
I mean, like, part of it is the whole thing's a little different in that you can get back up, so that throws you for a fucking loop. In the melees, like it's comparing that to another fight in like skill, and it's hard to do just because the whole dynamic is different. It just feels different. That said, that last fight between me and Sean, legit, like I went in there and that was one of the hardest like one-on-one fights I've ever had. And Sean like doesn't fight one-on-one, and he just fucking brought it that day. He was there. I don't know. There's something about being in that arena, I think, that just brings out the best.
Yeah, it's talk about a fucking brute. We're gonna get into it when we talk about your one-on-one, but I'm really glad it was you two that ended up with that double-sided axe, because like anyone else that would have been just a really boring match. It would have been a lot of skill in it, but you guys really. Yeah, like for some of the lighter guys in the league, you showed a tremendous amount of skill with that. It's fucking awesome. Nice. But before we gush too much, let's dive in round 1. Let's talk about the people we got on the list. So of course, Ringo, you were in it. Balin from Arizona, veteran of the league, been around for a while. One of the standing like he's always in the rotation for that Arizona Midwest regional team, the Desert Demons, who they're a fucking you want to talk about a tough fucking team. That gets my vote.
They got some thugs.
Yeah. So we had Balin come out. John, New York guy, came out fairly green, don't have a lot on him. And then Merrick Brave actually came out, which I was kind of excited to see. So for those of you that don't know a lot about him, he's a big wrestler on the indie circuit. He has some notable matches, but I think probably something that is one of the more notable things is, anyone that's keeping up with wrestling now, he has opened a gym with Seth Rollins, who is, just won the Royal Rumble, is going to go on to WrestleMania to then main event against Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. So, like, this guy's no fucking joke. Like, he's pretty fucking
Brock Lesnar
legit.
is still wrestling?
Brock Lesnar is still wrestling, and that is a separate
beating people up
podcast
with
because
a
I will
wheelchair?
rage. What's that?
Is he beating people up with a wheelchair and all his gold medals?
He's not even the oldest one. Like, we had the Brothers of Destruction and DX have a match, and like that was the geriatric fucking Medicaid match of the night. It fucking sucked. But
let's talk about something that didn't suck. My fight.
Yeah, I was about to say I have a podcast of my own about wrestling, so we'll leave that. So we had Merrick in there. Sean O'Flynn, another great. I think, have I heard right? He's in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Hawaii.
Yeah, he was that a recent move? I don't remember him always being in Hawaii.
No, he was from Colorado the first 2 years he was in the league, and then he and his girl were just like, what sounds great? Fucking sunshine every day. And so they just moved.
And then months season.
Yeah, I don't blame him for that. Another guy that's been on the international team countless times, veteran in the sport. And rounding out the episode, we had Orlando, one of the better like runners and flankers out of New York. I've fought against him a lot of times. I'm sure all of us have fought against him a lot, and he's one of the most squirrely guys I've ever fought, and he's fucking annoying to fight against.
Yeah, he can be.
Yeah. So let's kick it into round one. We kick it off. First off, before the action gets started, I'm starting to get really disappointed with the lack of nicknames. We saw what Trash Panda and people really responded. Matt, we got no Trash Night, we got no Murder Gnome, and
so a quick behind the scenes on that. Jay called me Trash Night every time he referred to me during filming, so they went back and re-recorded his lines to be like, I guess we can't have two trash people. I was like, God damn it. And so Santos gets the trash fucking moniker.
Oh,
I'm fucking pissed. I'm pissed.
I'm sorry to say, like, trashiness, Ringo, you're like a trucker. You got a cotter pin on the side of your helmet and everything else like that. I'm like, that's definitely like some hilly bullshit. Like,
yeah. Dude, and that was like, that's what was weird about it is that was the cleanest my kit had like ever looked. Like
yeah.
I put it together and then I walk in and Jay's like, "Oh, so they call you Trash Night?" I'm like, "Oh shit." I guess, and so I guess I should have leaned into it. And so since then I've been leaning into it, and now nothing. I've been calling myself trash for 2 months for no reason.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, we still call you trash. But so the nicknames are one thing. I felt like it would have injected a little personality into it because it does get a little boring. It's like, okay, good job, Dave. But to each their own. Kicking into round one, saw a lot of great movement. Really, one of the first times we saw everyone kind of just book it. No one was really sitting back and waiting. What were your guys' thoughts on that first round of the six-man free for all?
I'm watching it right now. Ringo, go ahead.
I mean, my first thought watching it was like I was actually surprised. Like that first round in my memory, I'd been way more active in striking, and watching it, I didn't get that much striking in. I was much more out of the picture in that round than I was in the next two. And also what really surprised me was Merrick. The day of, I didn't remember him doing anything. And part of that is because like I was just busy doing my own shit. But like he came in there and he's swinging hard. And like that first round, I think he put down John Chasm once. You see a couple of good strikes from him. So that was one thing that fucking I was there and I didn't see that shit. What?
Yeah.
I messaged him afterwards to be like, "Yo, good job, man. That was you really showed up for like a first timer in armor, and I really think he did. Just sucks that he got put in with some killers.
Especially those four that your four that went on. That was a list
Yeah.
of just fucking killers.
Yeah. And so at that first round, yeah, there a lot of movement. Sean was fucking. He was putting in work with that axe. Orlando got fucking free, and he was doing everything. The only thing that sucked of the four that went on is that Balin kind of sat back, and this is a problem that a lot of guys I think have had. Who when they fight on a team with a lot of good fighters, they tend to play the support role more. So you're used to sitting back and setting people up, but in an all VL, you can't be setting anyone up. You gotta be there and fucking put it down. You gotta be the one who's knocking people out, putting the pain in. And Balin, I don't think really found his groove in that first round.
I think the thing is with Balin, like here in the States and doing chapter matches and stuff like that, his job on the Desert Demons is usually to keep people off of Simon, and being that guard type and basically like pushing people around, positioning people for other people to knock them out. And what I just saw out of that first round of the 6-man melee, Balin was against the rail the whole time.
Yeah.
He put his back to the rail, which is, hey, that's a good idea. You don't want to get messed up in the back. But at the same time, he didn't do anything dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, and speaking of, Balin on the rail, we saw, I think this is probably the first time we've seen like a genuine armor failure that, kind of needed to be taken care of mid-fight because Balin's shoulder just straight up comes off.
So Balin's shoulder comes off, and I don't know if you can see it, but like, and I didn't remember this till seeing it, but while I'm out in that first round, not coming in at the very end, my shoulder's hanging off flapping too. We both lost them, and that shot Balin takes to the face, where that I forget who called it. One of the judges like a major shot to the face. I think it was Jay. That looks like it comes in just at the collarbone, and had Sean either seen that and been like, I'm gonna mess you up, or not seen it and I just accidentally gone there. Either way, Balin could have been out for the day had that come in at a different angle. So that was actually, watching again, I'm like, oh, that's a little scary.
Yeah.
I was very nervous for him, and it's one of those things where we're kind of used to in the ACL where we have those refs on the field specifically looking for that. So then it kind of got me curious. Well, are there people off to the side when you were recording that were like looking? I imagine there were.
There were a bunch, but like I didn't actually catch the Balin's shoulder falling off my first watch through, because, which is great that we're doing this later because I got to get a second watch through. But yeah, the first time I didn't even see it, and the second time I was kind of like, is his shoulder? Holy fuck, his shoulder's off, and like. When you're in that press, and he was the whole time, he basically was grappling with someone or, closely engaged the whole time. Catching a piece of armor, especially a shoulder, just flapping it's not easy, So,
no.
So there were people looking, but sometimes you just can't pick it up.
Yeah, he really got lucky there. But, with the first round, a lot of great movement. We see that second round of chaos, and we see a lot more. And I'm trying to remember if it was the second or third round where the flying fucking ninja just straight up kicks Orlando in the mouth, on the shoulder, really good.
I mean, Ringo in the first round, you had a really good ass stomp on Merrick.
On Merrick,
kicked him straight in the butt, and he just went over.
Yeah. And that's that you heard Andre talking about it, that that new guy in armor who doesn't really know what they're they don't know to check their flanks and such. They're just too worried about that first fight, and because that stomp, like, that'll, if I catch a vet with that, sometimes they'll go down, but it's a 30% chance, even if I'm coming in straight from behind, just because people are so much better being like, as soon as they feel that contact, they start to move and they start to base.
Yeah.
But
then at the same time, right at the beginning of the second round, where you go running in, comes over, cross checks you, and you have to take an immediate knee and get right back up.
Yeah. My thoughts going into that second round, I was like, man, I really want to set this off. I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna fuck up John, and I book it across. And I remember being like, man, I can't believe Orlando came and hit me that fast. because I had completely discounted Merrick. Like, I still, in my head, thought it was Orlando who took me down till I watched the fucking episode.
Yeah.
Guy comes up, cross-checks you straight down to a knee.
Yeah, he just came out, and, like, I had just completely, like, discounted his move, but he was like, no, I'm getting the fuck back in there. And as soon as he saw me go, he fucking jumped my ass. And then, but, like, the thing that, you know, was good on that, as soon as I got drops, I popped right back up. And we see that.
Yeah, that's key.
We see Orlando do the same thing, I think, in this round. No, maybe it was in the 2v2s. But he takes Sean down. No, Sean takes him down, lands on him. But Orlando's the first one back up. And, you know, and so even though he got taken down, he was able to recover faster. And that's going to look better in the judge's eyes. So, yeah.
And I will say, Ringo, I just watched you take a couple of hits from, like, dealing with Sean, dealing with Orlando, and then busting out and then immediately pushing Sean to the rail and attacking him with your falchion. You were swinging your falchion a lot in the second round, too.
Yeah. The second round, it looked a lot better on striking for me. I think Balin, too, his striking in the second round, I think that's where he puts John down with the axe shot to the back of the head.
Is that the back of the head? Because it looked like his axe was hooked into the bottom side of his helmet.
So if I remember correctly, it's hooked into the helmet and he's pulling, and then he gets it out and hits him one time, and the hit is what drops him. So he he yanks and pulls him into a shitty position, and then hits him.
Yeah, almost got him like in that executioner spot with his head down and just kind of finished it off.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Balin went to the ground with a hug. John engages with you and pulls you down, and then Balin comes over and hits John in the back of the head, and then hits him in the collarbone, and he drops to the floor. Mm-hmm. And that's the end of the second round.
Yeah.
I think Balin was basically just like wrestling around with Merrick a bunch, and John.
Yeah. A lot of that second round was we kind of split off into two triads. Where like, I mean, there was that double team where Sean and Orlando went to fucking go up me, and then the other two were busy with Balin. So that was an interesting sort of dynamic where you have the field just sort of splits into two separate fights, and we didn't really cross back over to the end, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
right.
One thing I got to say about Merrick actually did a pretty good job of keeping his feet, keeping his eyes around him and everything else. Like, even though he's bleeding now, he was slow getting back up a couple of times when he got hit. He not armor tough.
Yeah, no, I mean, you saw it at the end of that second round. He takes his helm off and like he's popped. He went red in the eye. So, you know, I know he must have been fighting with that the whole time. So it wasn't easy for him to get up. Especially the first time in armor, and like when you bleed in armor for the first time, he's probably got a little of those jitters. Like, I mean, I get he's a wrestler and he's like kind of used to going red, but you know,
we also hadn't been nice to him before the start, so we were all getting our armor on, and I don't know, did not feel good about that armor looking at it, and I like started pointing out some of the things. You know, I was like, this armor doesn't look good about this and that, and like, and how the fit didn't look good. You know, this type of normal bullshit you do, but this is also, I'm doing it to a first timer who's like, fuck, this armor's not going to work. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of a dick move. Yeah. And like,
an old terrorist.
I wasn't trying to, but I did it.
So actually, while we're on that subject, it's something that, you know, I've been kind of curious about for a little while, but what was the process like for the new people coming in, like, because I'm sure they didn't buy that armor just for the show. So what was kind of did they just get fitted right there for armor, or was it something that they really took time to be like, hey, let me shop around what I want, what's available, or kind of how did that go for them?
The show had a bunch of armor, right? Like, obviously every episode has new armor for you to try on in the second round. So there was a bunch of armor there, plus 2 armor smiths. But basically, you would walk in. I think they walked in the day before, but they would walk in and the armorers would be like, let's take a look at what we got and we'll try to fit it to you. And they had, you know, a day to do that on top of all the other stuff they had going on. So it was, it was a little sketch. A little sketch.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the new guys that have started haven't really been overly huge, so they haven't really need to make anything super specialized.
No.
Some armor does kind of fit most medium-sized dudes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean that's
No Eddie Halls.
the nice bit about it is that they were able to like kind of you get the one size fits most, and you just sort of move it around a bit, but
Right.
getting that fit so that it covers whatever gaps you want, and so that it moves right, and so it's not going to slip
Yeah.
off. That's usually a couple month-long process over a couple of fights. Right. You'll have a fight. You'll what?
A couple of hours, like, come on, man.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like you get a fight, and then you realize something's fucked, and then you got to fix it the next fight, and then that next fight you find something else is a little wrong, and so you're constantly adjusting it for a while, and so they didn't get that. They got it's the one, go out there, hope that we got it right.
Yeah. So moving on, I think we can agree that everyone that went on, deserved to go on when they list that initial three with Ringo, Sean, and Orlando.
Still looking at the third fight of sixth round of the 6-man.
What's
still another round we haven't even looked at.
There's two more rounds.
The third round? Yeah. We'll get into like the 3-man, but yeah, I wasn't. Yeah. So okay. So Paul, what was your thoughts on the third round of that?
Well, what I'm seeing out of John is not a whole lot. He's hugging people, and he's using piss poor force with that mace. Not really doing a whole lot. Hugging, doing a couple of punches and everything else like that, but I'm not really seeing a whole lot out of him otherwise.
And
Orlando,
and actually, speaking of John, real quick, I'm confused why he didn't have a shield. Like, did he have a buckler? Because every time I saw him, it was just like mace in a bare hand.
He just went Mason bare hand. There's a bunch of boxer type dudes who've been coming in, and they're always like, "Nah, I don't want the shield. I'm just gonna do better with my." And it's like, okay, buddy,
Okay. All right.
yeah.
you do you.
Well, we saw how well that worked.
Ringo, like the flying kick to Ringo, your flying kick to Orlando's chest was pretty dope. No offense.
Beauty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you don't see people jumping around and doing stuff like that. It just doesn't happen in the sport because we all know that we kind of want to keep our feet on the effing ground.
Yeah,
So-
it's definitely one of those high risk, high reward. But I felt like this was a day for high risk.
I was kind of hoping it would be like the clip of like some of those Polish teams where they're on the rail like about ready to go over, but then one guy comes in flying, and then all three of them end up going over the list.
Ringo, I will say that you did a very good job of ducking out of grabs and holds. Your head ducking was on point, dude. Like, you were just able to get free a whole bunch. And I'm not really gonna like jerk you off this whole time, but you're doing some serious work, and I'm seeing it.
No, thank you.
Sean's doing some serious work with this axe in the third round of the 6-man melee. He is just hacking away at people. He hit you in the side of the head. He hit Orlando in the side of the face. Like, Then you get free, and you're just swinging and swinging and swinging and gnarling at Sean. Then you go kick Orlando, which is pretty fun.
Right, and something that really worked to Sean's advantage was that he was the only one out there with a two-hander. So everyone,
one two-hander for the whole ring.
Merrick had a two-hander too.
Yeah, Merrick did.
Oh yeah, Merrick did. That's right.
And he actually landed some heavy blows in that first
set.
Yeah, the potential's there. He, of course, he's never done it, so he doesn't really exactly have the technique right, but fucking raw parts there.
Yeah, I hope he comes back.
Yeah. So the three that leave are Ringo, Sean, and Orlando. Obviously, good picks for everybody to go out and move on to round 2. The three that are left are Balin, John, and Merrick. Balin kind of keeps them both moving around. He doesn't let himself get too cornered up and everything else like that, and they keep kind of bouncing between fighting 2-on-1s, which it's really difficult in a three-way fight not to do.
Yeah, and they're all one. Or no, they're not all one-hitters, but I mean it's very grapple happy. Merrick wasn't able to really get out there and swing the two-hander, and I think like the deciding part of this was really just that shot to the back of the head that Balin was able to get on Merrick to put him down. Because, I mean,
Yeah.
otherwise, John wasn't able to do anything. And what
No.
he did do was, like, kind of inconsequential.
There was a beautiful moment that they didn't show on the clip there. So John and Balin go toe to toe. We see like just the end of it in the cut, and they're standing, and John starts to try to box, and Balin just is like ducking, Muhammad Ali type stuff from an SCA dude who's never boxed, and then just throws like one or two straight punches with the buckler and rocks, and rocks John. It's just like, sweet, you just got outboxed by this old man who's never done it.
Well, I was kind of wondering what happened because they cut away to it, and like John's going out with his hands up, like just trying like taunt him, and then they say stop fight, and he's like gasping on his knees. I'm like, okay, something got left out there now.
Balin hit him, and that buckler Balin's using is super reinforced and heavy. It's something like a 10-pound buckler or something. It's ridiculous. It's the normal steel buckler, and then there's a bunch of flat stock, either bolted or I think it's bolted onto the bottom so that it won't fold and it will have extra weight, and it hits like a fucking truck. He gets me with it once. I don't know if it was on the video, and like I did that quick stagger where you're like, nope.
Yeah. So after that, we see Balin move on, and then we move into the historical part for round 2, and we get the Knights of the Round Table. We got you're gonna have to help me because I'm not a big. It's Mordred, I think was what it was, and Arthur.
Mordred and Arthur. Yeah.
Feel free to Google that to hear the backstory. I don't fucking know that.
Basically, they get new hip plates, gut plates. There's a falchion and a mace, bucklers. Mordred's side got barbutes, and Arthur's side got what are they, salets?
Yes. And and at one point, Balin says, this feels like my head is in a giant fishbowl. And I'm with him on that. I've never really liked those style of helmets, especially I've never been a fan of them, and I kind of cringed when I saw they were going out. Luckily, it looked like none of them got hurt, but no.
Well, I actually hit up Balin, and I asked him about his helmet. I'm like, "How are your helmets?" He's like, "They're actually pretty tough helmets. They have really bad. They have crappy visibility. They have okay breathing, and they have good shock absorption." So they weren't getting hurt inside the helmets. They just couldn't really see nearly as well, and their breathing was meh. I mean, Salets are pretty tough helmets. There's a good couple of guys that use Salets on the team across the country. It's not really all that surprising. They're a tough helmet. They're strong.
Yeah, but you gotta get them fitted right, and that was one of the things that we were looking forward to because with very few exceptions. And they're notable exceptions. Like Andre wears a Saleh and no issues to his face. But there's a bunch of dudes who would get them, and every time they put them on, their face would open up if you gave them a straight punch. Yep. And so Sean and I were sitting there like, oh shit, they have a day to get that chin strap. They have 90 minutes to get that chin strap working. We're gonna go in and we're just gonna throw punches. We're just gonna try to light up their faces, and hopefully, we'll get steel on flesh.
Right.
And obviously that doesn't happen. Weaver put together a good system, and it fucking held up. So. Yeah. Good job, Weaver.
And, while we're still, before we actually get into the action, I really enjoy the fact that they actually got on camera of Orlando and Balin planning out what they're going to do to you guys. Because their plan, what they said was, they want to have Balin be the sponge while Balin will have the 2-on-1 while Orlando can kind of make the match he wants. Which is a good plan. It's a good plan. But unfortunately, it's against you and Sean.
Yeah.
Like against anyone else, I'm like, okay, that's a solid plan. But
I want you to hurt the two squirreliest dudes in the league. Yeah. It's a rough one. I do enjoy the fact that John Clemens, during the armoring process, says, "Oh, these guys can half sword." I'm like, they have bucklers, dude. What is half sword for?
Yeah. Also, they didn't show that we had to put on new arms for that, too. Both of us, we couldn't use our original arms. They gave us new 3-piece arms. So there was almost like an entirely new kit. Like our legs were the same, and my body was the same. I think Sean had to take a new body.
Sean had to use a new body.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, and you hear him in it. He's like, "Yeah, this is lighter than my normal kit." So like, we gave him all of our extra weight because
Yeah.
it's like,
Here, you used to being a tank. Be a tank.
yeah, a very very mobile tank.
Right. So going into the first round again, keep in mind the plan is to have Balin take the 2-on-1 so Orlando can like kind of slip out and do his work. Right away, we see Ringo and Sean just press early, get right in their face. Balin and Orlando are almost like stacked on each other, so they didn't get to do their plan at all initially. But Orlando did slip out and was able to get a blindside on, and I was glad to see it was off to a shaky start, but they did get their plan done once the first punch was thrown. And it was, I see your plan now. It's like, yeah, hit him in the face because Balin took a fucking shot.
Dude, that first shot that Sean just runs in and just fucking unloads. Yeah. And that punch, like watching it again, Balin takes like 2 steps from it. That he just
he recoils.
Yeah. And that was part of our plan. Put the buckler in Sean's hand and just let him go to town. That bit where Orlando talks about wanting to strap it, we wanted to do the same thing too, and they didn't let us. So if Orlando's shield got strapped, I'm a little angry because we were told we couldn't make that change.
And I was gonna say like that whole 2 rounds was a PSA for strap your bucklers because they were just flopping everywhere, falling down. It was a mess.
You see mine, and I don't actually strap my normal buckler, but this one rolled so much more because my normal buckler has a giant boss, so I just put the boss on someone's face. With this, you like if you're at all off center, you're catching the side of it and it rolls in your hand. Mm-hmm. So so definitely strap your buckler or get one of the ones that I have that has like a 5-inch fucking protrusion on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so round one was actually like kind of fairly close. I think round 2 was a little more one-sided, but round 1 I thought was pretty close. What was your thoughts on it, Paul?
I gotta say, like, you guys put them against the rail and you kind of hammered them a little bit. Not as much as round 2 was. Round one's just. Y'all get stacked up a little bit too much, and you're not really getting free and doing stuff a whole lot. Big punches. Ringo, you were slipping gaps real good, keeping things out. Orlando had a down on Sean real fast. Sean couldn't get up for a minute, and then he just comes up and starts hammering Orlando in the face. Not a whole lot of footwork I'm seeing. It's more so like people wrestling around their their upper bodies, and they're not really throwing their legs around doing a whole lot. I think Balin loses his weapon at one point in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, honestly, I think that moment where Balin loses his weapon, if we won round 1, I think that's what does it for us. Sean comes in as Balin's trying to sort of come on my back, and he punches, and the punch catches Balin's arm and just pulls the fucking sword right out of it.
Right.
And then you came running up while Balin's holding Sean, and you start punching Balin in the side of the head.
Yeah.
Then hitting him with the falchion and all that.
Yeah, it was fun.
You and Sean had it right. You put him up against the rail. You kept yourself split up enough where you could really mess with each other and everything else like that. But it wasn't a really super dynamic fight. And then going in the in-between rounds, you're looking at Sean and going, hit the gaps, like hit him in the back of the leg, give him like turn that into hamburger. Like that's like one of the best lines you can give with single-handed weapons.
Yeah. And I mean those kits weren't fitted to us. We tried them on the day of, so we all had a lot of gaps showing, and they worked.